Okay, so for today's quick introduction to how to use Google Sheets, we're going to use that to help us understand the difference between simple interest and compound interest. So we're going to suppose we have $100 and we got 10% interest and we're going to invest it for 10 years. That's a lot of tens. One investment is going to be simple interest and the other offers compound interest compounded annually. So let's just think about simple interest first. So simple interest says I have $100. Boom, that's how much money I start with. And at the end of that year, I have $100 because this is year zero, remember, right? So then the next day or the next year, I still have $100. That's my principal. That's my starting amount. But now I have that 10%, and 10% as a decimal divided by 100, we get 0.0 or 0.10. Okay. To calculate our interest, we need to take that $100 and we're going to times it by our 10% as a decimal. So that's our 0.01. So that's going to give us $10. So we've earned $10 in interest. So then at the end of the year, we had that original 100 plus that $10 that I just earned in interest. Nice. Okay. So the next year, well, simple interest says my principal doesn't change. It says every year my principal will always be $100. And my interest rate is staying 10%. So it's going to stay at 0.1 the whole time. So I can calculate my interest, and I know it's going to be my principal times my interest rate as a decimal. So because those never change, my principal and my interest rate never change, that means every year I'm getting the same amount of money for my interest. And every year I'm going to take the year up above, and I'm going to add it to my new amount of interest I just earned, which is $10. And every year, we're just going to keep adding $10 to what I had the year before, and that's what I've got. So simple interest never changes the principal. Same interest rate. Every year, we're earning that much. That's what annual means, is every year. Annual means every year. Okay? So that's what simple interest does. When I go to talk about compound interest, it's a little bit differently. So compound interest says that my interest is added to the principal every year, and you can earn interest on that interest as well. Okay, so that means now that interest is going to start working for me. And that's what we want, right? That's where we really start making that money. So let's see. I'm still starting with year zero. It's still starting with $100. So at the end of that year, I still have my $100. Okay. So let's see. So my principal is going to be whatever it is from the year before. My interest rate is still going to be 10% as a decimal, so it's still going to be 0.1. And that's going to be the same all the whole way. There's more complicated scenarios. We are not getting into the more complicated scenarios. So my interest rate is going to be equal to whatever my principal was, so my starting amount at that year, times that 10%. So the first year, okay, so I'm making $10 in interest, all right. So I got to take that amount I had from the year before, and I'm going to add my new amount of money, and boom, there we go. Okay, well, the change comes, and now my principal is no longer $100. It's now going to be $110. So when I go to calculate that interest rate, of that new principal times my 10%, I've now made $11. So now, whatever I had from the year before, plus my new interest, is now what I've got. So every year, that principal is going to keep getting a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. My interest rate is going to keep changing because the total amount at the end of every year keeps changing. So look at that. Look at that. That's pretty crazy looking, isn't it? Why are these decimals this way? We got to fix that. Right? We're talking money here, aren't we? So we just need our 2 decimal places here. We just need to be money. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Nope. Yep. I just want 2 decimal places. There we go. So look at that. At the end of 10 years, because every year my interest adds to the year from before. So my principal is now whatever it was from the year before. So I'm earning 10% on whatever I had from the year before. And it just keeps getting more and more and more. Isn't that awesome? That is the power of compound interest. So it can work in your favor if it's an investment, and it can really, really hurt you if it's something like a credit card where you're owing the money. Oops, I can't spell compound interest. Okay. Now, how does this look like in a graph? Great question. Okay, let's make our graph. So what we're going to do is we're going to click and highlight our years, because that's going to be our x-axis. And then if I click Control, I can now highlight just that last column. So now I've got my two columns. I've got my x's and my y's. I'm going to click Insert, Chart. Oh, I don't want a bar chart. No, 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 no. We want a scatter plot. So that way I've got my x-axis is my year. My total amount is up and down the side. That's my y-axis. And if I click Customize in Series, remember we started doing this yesterday, I can now click a trend line. That certainly looks linear. There's other choices, but that certainly looks linear. I can even put on my equation. Look at that. So my y equals 10x plus 10. That should be a 0.10. Okay. So now what happens if I go to graph my compound interest? So again, we're going to highlight our year. There's my x-axis. Hit Control. Highlight this last column, which is what we want to see because that's our total amount. Insert, Chart. What did it give me here? Give me a line chart. I don't want a line chart. I want a scatter plot. You can definitely see it's not straight anymore, is it? So when we click on Series, we want to put on a trend line, but we don't want a line anymore. It's not linear. I mean, no. What we want is actually called an exponential. Because compound interest is an exponential. 10% every year added onto the thing before, it actually gives us an exponential line. So that equation actually, whoa, that looks funny. Let's take that off. You're not ready for that. Okay. So it's curvy. And it's going to keep curving. So it's definitely not linear anymore. Compound interest is not linear, but it sure gets big pretty fast.